I'll say, how about we get started? Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesdays. I just told people it's tournament eve. The sun is shining, and we're here to make some great news today, so we're happy you're all here. My name is Garrett Bader. I'm a member of the On Broadway Board of Directors. It's an exciting day, not just in the Broadway district, not just in the city of Green Bay, but for those who have been with us hearing this news, we're here to make some major announcements today. It was just 2 years ago, if you'll recall, it was January of 2022, and we announced our vision to open this Green Bay public market facility. We, as On Broadway, decided to take the torch and make this facility happen. You know, for many that have been to these facilities around the country and in some cases around the world, they're exciting, they're dynamic centers of not only community engagement, but of business growth, of events. And we want to bring that here. So in January 22, we said we're doing this. In April of 22, just about 2 years ago, we bought this building. And I joked walking in this morning, you see some of the activity that's underway, it's never looked better. But there are great things coming. A theme today is going to be partners. Many partners that help make this project happen, because these just don't happen on their own. I can't tell you myself, the folks that are working on this, how many times we've heard, well, is that going to happen? Yes, it is. Because for 2 years, it has truly been a labor of love, working days, working nights, and that's not being facetious, and weekends, on all the pieces to make this a reality. You're going to hear from a lot of these partners today, along with the news that we're going to share. So let's start. First and foremost, we have some elected officials in the audience tonight. Can you stand, please, and just be recognized for a moment? Our city folks, Carl from the governor's office is here. Maybe give them a hand for being here this morning. Thank you all. Invite up in particular Mayor Eric Ginrich, who is about to, if I'm not mistaken, begin his 6th year in office. The city, of course, one of those most important partners behind us from the beginning, championing this vision. Eric, please come on up and say a few words.
Well, thanks so much for having me here today, Garrett. It's sort of like deja vu all over again. We've been here a few times, but we've got some newsworthy items to announce. Really excited about the progress that's been made as far as the capital campaign is concerned. A lot of great folks involved. As Garrett said, partnership is the key word today. I really appreciate his work as a board member. Of course, Brian Johnson as executive director, Brooke Haves for all of her work, and the entire team of On Broadway and all of those who have understood from the beginning the importance of making sure that this project is successful. As Garrett alluded to, the city of Green Bay has been there from the beginning. I want to acknowledge and thank our Common Council. We recognized Randy Scannell and Bill Morgan already, but their leadership on council has been really instrumental in pushing this project forward with the city's support. That's been very clear, as I said, from the beginning. As somebody who's done a little bit of traveling around the country, visited a good number of public markets, I certainly understand the vitality that they bring, especially to downtowns all across the country and the world. This is something that we obviously haven't had to this point. Understand why it would be so important to the future of the city, the future of our downtown. So my support has never been stronger for the vision that has been articulated and will be later today. And so just thrilled to be able to see the progress that's been made, community partners and organizations and businesses who have stepped up time and again when On Broadway has asked for their support. So whatever we can do from the city's perspective, from my personal perspective, we're going to continue to push forward on this because we understand the importance of this project, not just to downtown Green Bay, not just to Green Bay, but to Brown County and the region as a whole. This is a real driver of tourism dollars, of beds and heads, as we say, and so we're going to continue to push forward because we understand how valuable this is going to be to the future and the vitality of this entire region. So thanks, Garrett, for having me. Thanks for all the work that's been done to this point, and I'll turn things back over.
So 2 years of designing and planning and a lot of sketching and a lot of putting ideas on paper. Thank goodness we have a lot of paper companies around here because we have burned through a lot of that. I'm going to invite up Pat Skolecki. He is the Vice President, Principal, and the Green Bay Office Leader for Grafe, our architect and engineering firm, helping to take all of these great ideas put them on the paper so we can start busting out some walls. Pat, come on up.
Thank you, Garrett. So the introduction obviously tells you who I am, but I just want to mention a couple things. And obviously, as an engineering consulting firm, we tend to fly under the radar a little bit. But Grave, along with our partner, RHG Design, Architecture and Design out in New Jersey, us particularly have been involved with a lot of signature projects here in the Greenbay market. We've been here for 41 years, surprisingly enough, and been involved in Lambeau Field redevelopment, the City Deck project, Claude Alloy Bridge, the Rush Expo, just to name a few. But this is about the public market, and public market is a signature type of transformational project that we really strive to be a part of. It's unique. It creates a great gathering space for dining, for beverage, for food, for working, and becomes a community event space that people can come down and really enjoy, whether it's in a group or in a small gathering space. This is going to change the downtown Broadway district. The momentum that this district has gained over the years really can culminate or at least build on with this project. There's a lot to happen down here in the Broadway district that we will hope to be involved in the future. But right now, as we transition out of this design phase and into the construction phase with Bolt, we're really excited to see this become a reality. As Garrett said, over 2 years of designing with Brian and his team and coming up with ideas and different programming thoughts, unique characteristics and looks is really going to make this space different, but it's also going to feel welcoming and warm. And that's really what our goal is when this project is over with. So thank you, Garrett. Thank you, Brian, for your trust in us. And we're looking forward to turning it over to Tom Bolt and Tony Musin and their team to really transition to this next phase. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, we said we were going to make some exciting news this morning, so item number 1, here we go. You see around you signs for Bolt. It is our pleasure to work with such a great contractor that can take all the ideas that Pat and his team put on paper and make it a reality. You see some work that's begun. They're going to talk a little bit more about that, but they're also going to make a very exciting announcement themselves. So I'd like to welcome up here Tom Bolt, CEO of Bolt Company, for that news.
Thank you, Garrett, and thank you all for being here. Bolt is celebrating 135 years in business. It was started by my great-grandfather, Martin Bolt, who was the son of German immigrants and made his way up to Appleton. My grandfather took over for my great-grandfather and expanded the business in the Appleton area. And when my dad came back from World War II, he had some larger visions as far as where he would want to build. And I think from his legacy, we've been able to expand to be not only a regional, but a national contractor. We've worked in Greenbay for over 70 years. And we've had an office, believe it or not, in the Greenbay area for about 10 years. And the announcement we would love to make today, and for everyone assembled here, is that we will be moving our office of 10 years to this particular facility. And we're very, very anxious to get started in renovating and improving the space. But I think another aspect, I think anybody that is involved with employees and the whole dynamic of work environment and work-life balance, is that you need to have places which are desirable, which are attracting of various people, and are a dynamic area to live and work. And we think by coming to this particular site in the downtown area of Greenbay will be a very good move, not only for us as a business, but also for employees. I wanted to share one small personal story. A number of years ago, I was at an event, and there was going to be dancing. And if any of you have been to dances, oftentimes the guys are on the outside and the gals are a little more interested perhaps in dancing. But at this particular event, there were 2 people that were known as sparkers. I had never heard of that particular term before, but the sparker's job was to engage those people who were on the sideline a little uncomfortable about what was going on, and got people engaged and involved. And if you know anything about the psychology of crowds, there's usually one person that has a vision. But the second most important thing is the second person that joins in the crowd, and that brings the crowd together. So along with the On Broadway folks, along with Grave, along with many other people now and in the future, we hope that we could be one of those sparkers that will create an atmosphere that will really be a nice destination spot for people in Green Bay. But as the mayor said, bringing people from way outside of the area. So all I can say is on Wisconsin and on Broadway. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. And we should also share that Bolt's Greenbay office will be a little bit above my head here on the second floor. It's also going to be a shared co-working space. And for those that know me, they'll start laughing right now. I've joked that this space needs to feel like a Delta Sky Club. It's got to feel good. We saw some early renderings earlier this week. It feels good. So we're going to be like it. We'll be making more announcements on that in the future, of course, for if you're interested how you become a member to be able to work there. But it's going to be a very, very exciting part of our facility. Now, we've gotten to the point, we have ideas on paper, we have a contractor, we're going to start building these things. You know what else we have to do? We've got to raise money. So, we have a team together, our capital campaign cabinet. Many of our members are here today. I want to invite up Ken Stramiska. He's our chair of our capital campaign. He's also the founder, vice president, and chief operating officer at Innovia Health. That means he is much smarter than me, and he can share a lot more details on where we are, where we're going, how we raise the money to make this thing happen.
Good morning, everybody. As Garrett said, I'm Ken Stramiska. I've got the honor, privilege to lead a group of community citizens. Today, you've heard two things already. That this is it's a partnership, and it's also about vision. And this, when Garrett and Brian talked to me about this project, you could see the vision was really strong. It's transformational. It's going to be transformational for the community. It's going to be transformational for the neighborhood, and it's going to be transformational for the street. And for those of us who've been in Green Bay, and previous to founding Innovia, I used to be the president of the Community Foundation, and that was in the early 2000s. Green Bay has had an amazing renaissance. So thank you, both mayors, for your leadership to get us where we are today. But vision, there's always a price tag with vision. And money makes things happen. And luckily, we live in a community where people are willing to share their wealth to make things happen. This is going to be a public-private partnership. So we're responsible for raising the private dollars, and the On Broadway team is also helping us raise money from the public sector. So thank you, Mayor, for the commitment of the city, which was over $500,000. But we're going to, as you see here, the chart on the left, my left, it shows you this is about a $12.5 million project. And that's a pretty good sized project for Green Bay, for any community. And right now, we've raised a little more than $7.5 million, so about 60%. So we're in a really good place. And we're going to have an announcement here of who our lead donor is for this, which is, again, that's catalytic. Nothing can happen if you don't have that first couple major gifts of support. What's going to start happening now, and the reason why we're going public right now, is because we're going to need everybody else to help pull the wagon and give support. So we're going to be reaching out far and wide to raise that last $5 million that we're going to need. And helping me do that are a number of people that I just want to point out. On the committee with me is also Paul Jaden. Paul's going to talk in just a moment, and many of you know Paul, former mayor of Green Bay and also the president of the Green Bay Chamber of Commerce. Gail McNutt, she was a leader of the Girl Scouts for a number of years. Dennis Hogan, I know Dennis, I see Dennis is here, formerly with Associated Bank. Aaron Popke with the Greenbay Packers, and the Packers have also provided some leadership support, so we appreciate that. David Martin from H.J. Martin. Ken Walker is also a part of the committee, and Ken's been a great community leader as well. And Tim Day has also been a great community leader and helped us with a number of relationships. And last, and I'm sure I'm forgetting someone, but Kate Burgess from Elevate 97 has been a great member of the committee. So we're charged with helping support that vision, and I'm sure that the history of Green Bay, we've got great history of support and success in fundraising. So it's not going to be easy, but we're going to make it happen, and we really appreciate it. And again, Garrett, thank you for giving me the opportunity and honor to once again engage in a major community project. Thank you.
Come on, I can give you the ability. We twisted arms, we coerced, we were like, dude, we want you. And he came on board, that was great. Okay, major announcement number 2. As Ken said, these projects just don't happen without premier community partners. And you need a champion that believes enough in the vision to lend a significant amount of money and a name to help make these things happen. I want to introduce to everyone today the concept of the square, on which the public market where we are sitting will be the anchor. This city block, from Broadway to Dousman to Chestnut to Hubbard Streets, is going to be known as the square. To talk more about that type of facility, one need think only of other communities where maybe we visited, where these public squares, public gathering places, are truly plazas, event areas, areas for engagement, where there's commerce, there's life. We want to reconnect essentially these neighborhoods immediately west of Broadway, which have not seen the most love in recent decades, and reactivate our Fox River connection to the east with this as the center. So the square is going to be very prominent. It's going to be a very big part of our Broadway district and our city. So I'd like to invite up Paul Jaden. Paul is, of course, on our capital campaign cabinet, the retired president of Madison Regional Economic Partnership, the Green Bay Chamber, and of course, his most important role ever, former Green Bay mayor, under whose leadership, may I add, the Broadway that we know came to be in the 1990s. Paul is also the inaugural recipient of the Paul F. Jaden Impact Award, as awarded by On Broadway at our State of the District event earlier this year. Paul, come on up, let's make some big news.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for being here. It's a great honor for me to be standing where I was in 1995 when I brought the City Council here for probably their first away game council meeting, and I outlined exactly what we were going to do in terms of achieving Main Street status, and then creating On Broadway, and then trying to resurrect this street. And it was a very difficult challenge. Even right behind us, we had an adult bookstore. We had about 5 or 6 very problematic bars. We created a team of beat cops that eliminated all of that over the course of 3 years, and in fact became the #1 policing program in the country, in fact the world at the time. So it was a challenge, but to see what's going on today under Mayor Hendrick's leadership, under Brian's leadership, and Garrett and all of the other wonderful volunteers is very heartwarming. And we can't do that, of course, without the very significant support of people who, time and time again, have supported other anchors in our community, whether it be the Resch Center, the KI, the Lambeau Field, of course, Botanical Gardens, Bay Beach, Meyer Theater. All of those things are anchors that required some significant volunteer activity and some support from the community. And likewise today we have that happening again. And I'm delighted to be able to announce that this activity center, this third place, if you will, within the community and the district that Garrett mentioned, is going to be known as the Resch Square. think Dick and Sharon are a little bit exhausted with me showing up at their offices to ask them for money, but we were able to receive a $3 million gift to kick off this campaign, and they, of course, want to continue to be a part of building this community. And if you go back prior to my administration and look at those anchors that were built for this community, like the Bay Beach, like the Neville Museum, Botanical Garden, the National Railroad Museum, obviously Lambeau Field. Those are the anchors that on which we built and continue to build with the KI, with the Resch, with the Botanical Garden, with this activity space as well, which I think will be another one of those anchors that today there are people saying it won't happen, or I don't want it to happen, just like they did with all of those other things. And today I would ask those people, which one of those projects should we not have done? Should we have turned our back on the Packers? Should we have turned our back on our convention activity downtown? No, every one of them has delivered exactly what was promised. Exactly what was promised. And I submit to you that this one too will deliver exactly what it promised. And the other thing I would ask you about all of those projects is, which one of them did we say, we're building this, but no one else outside of Green Bay can use it or enjoy it? I submit to you that this is another one of those, where we're saying this is not just for the city of Green Bay, this is for all of Brown County, this is for Northeast Wisconsin, this is for Wisconsin and beyond. And therefore I ask everyone affiliated with Brown County, from Troy, Pat Buckley, and beyond, to step up as well, just like Madison did for its public market, just like Milwaukee did for its public market. Step up and be a part of this, because this is going to serve Brown County, and this is going to serve Northeast Wisconsin in particular. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul. Can I get another hand for Paul June and for the Resches? Thank you for your support and your help. Folks, you see it at times, there are doubters out there. I think people maybe don't believe or don't think we can pull something off. This is real. If nothing else today comes across, this project is real. It is happening. We are on our way. If you don't have goosebumps right now, well, then you're not me. This is happening. So, we're doing it. We've started. When's it going to open? Please give another round of applause. Brian Johnson's going to come up here, our executive director, of course, of On Broadway. Believe it or not, the guy has 25 years of hospitality experience. I know, it means he's that old. He knows how to help run a market and the people we're going to have in place to do this and do it right. Brian, come on up.
Thank you, Garrett, for emceeing today, and obviously for your amazing contributions to this project. We couldn't do it. For those who don't know, Garrett by day is a real estate developer, and so his expertise throughout this process has been invaluable to get us where we are. It's a complicated project that has a lot of moving pieces, and it takes the expertise of people like Garrett and Ken on the fundraising side, and Paul with his relationships, and of course, many of the other folks that are involved in this project. So my role is to kind of talk you through the timeline and how we're going to get there. Real quickly though, I would like to acknowledge a couple of our board members that are here today that have really entrusted our staff and our organization to take on a project of this magnitude. Those in attendance, I think that I saw, Kasia Hintowski, Linda Bova, Drew Carney, and of course Garrett. So thank you to our board members who are here. Ken alluded to some of our capital campaign members, and he chuckled, right? I know there's more. And I want to acknowledge Melinda Morella Olson, who is here with us today, and was just announced as one of the Dancing with Our Stars individuals, so way to go, Melinda, on that. But of course, we have many others involved in that process as well. Bob Atwell, Mike Haddad, a really, really great crew that is making things happen here in our community. So, and last, I just want to acknowledge our staff. This doesn't happen without a dedicated team. And our staff, if you could just please raise your hands. I think they're all here, but so as Garrett said, we announced this project 2 years ago. And the question is why? Why announce something so soon the way that we did? And the reality is there were some things that were happening at the time that we knew created opportunities for us. And most namely, it's the ARPA allocation that came from the federal government post-pandemic. And so we were appearing on public agendas anyway, so we knew that we had to get in front of an audience to really talk about the importance of this project to our community so that we could take advantage of those. And in fact, that has already happened at the city level, and we're having those ongoing conversations with the county and with the state as well. So what have we been doing in the last 2 years? This is one of the hardest things about development. You see this all the time, where folks announce a project and then you don't see anything. And in a weird kind of way, intentionally, that's what capital campaigns do. They get you excited and they kind of go into a quiet phase while you actively raise that money, and that is why we're here today. We've exceeded that 50% threshold, as Ken talked about, and now it's time for us to really mobilize that energy and bring this thing home and land this plane. So what we've been doing for the last 2 years, as Garrett mentioned, we bought a building. That was a big step, but we knew at the time, and our board had faith in this, that worst case scenario, if this public market doesn't happen, we had a building with tenants, right? So the risk was pretty minimal, but we still thank the board for recognizing that we had to seize that opportunity while it existed. Tenant relocation. It is really, really challenging when you have a building that's full of tenants. I believe at the time we had right around 15 tenants-ish. We are down to just a couple right now, but more importantly, an exit strategy with the folks that are remaining. And so that has been a big part of what we've been doing over the last couple of years, is making sure that the tenants in this facility landed in a new home. Fundraising. Fundraising is based on relationships, and relationships take time. And it is a process of patience, and we're grateful for those folks that have stuck through this process and ultimately have made financial commitments. Brand development. Greenbay Public Market doesn't happen without a brand. Every major project needs that. And I'm gonna touch on that in a little bit. And then lastly, I want to talk about our legal structure. So this will be owned and operated by On Broadway. On Broadway is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. There are no private owners in this development, and I think that needs to be said, because this is what makes the most successful public markets around the country. So we've modeled ourselves very closely after Milwaukee. We've been very open about that discussion, and the Milwaukee Public Market is owned and operated by the 3rd Ward Business Improvement District. So this is not a model that we're creating from scratch. There's a reason the private sector has not taken on a project like this. It is complicated, and it doesn't generate large returns on investment, and folks would be better off investing in the stock market or in other private real estate options. And by having a nonprofit take this on, you can commit to programming, and you can commit to reasonable rent rates that allow your tenants to be successful. So really, one of the things that, as we developed this project over the last 2 years, one of the things you have to do is build a case. What is your case statement? How are you going to make this work? The one thing that we talked about is how we believe this project is going to generate over $100 million of new development in the next 5 years. And this is coming from direct conversations that we've had with developers who have recognized opportunities on lots that exist around this facility, around this area, and they say, you know what, if this project goes in, we are committed to making investments in the Broadway district. But it takes time. We've talked about how for 2 years we've had to plan this project. Other projects will take that same amount of time. But we have very, very strong interest for that to happen over the next 5 years. We've worked with our partners over at Discover Greenbay, and we've created some estimates around annual economic impact. And we believe the annual economic impact of this facility will be over $65 million a year. That's not chump change. That is a big, significant investment. Those are folks that come into our area. They stay in hotel rooms. They spend money at gas stations. They spend money at restaurants. They spend money, every place around here. We talked in the beginning about extending the stay. How do we support this retail corridor? Successful downtowns have successful retail corridors that are walkable, and that is why this project is so important. It's going to generate over $50,000 of local sales tax every single year. So that 0.5% that goes on top of the state, that's 50% or $50,000 a year every single year. The payback for the county, as Paul was talking about, could be pretty quick. Sometimes there are oftentimes fears. Change fosters fear everywhere you go. And one of the things that we've noted in some of the studies that we've read and reviewed in other cities throughout Wisconsin is nearby stores, on average, can see a 300% growth in sales. Now, of course, that's not a rubber stamp, right? Not everybody's going to experience that growth and that benefit the same way, but the research has shown that nearby places see growth in sales. And this one is important, I think really important. For every dollar that the public sector invests in public markets, it is returned in private investment 20 times over. That is an important statistic as we continue to work with our county and state officials. And then lastly, we have estimated, and this again is based on studies that we've done and reviews that we've done with other markets, that we can generate over 1 million visitors per year. How are we going to get there? Well, the farmers market, for starters, generates 250,000 visitors every single year. And we know every single one of those folks are not going to come into this facility, but a lot of them will. It's amazing when you really start to peel back local businesses. We've looked at Cabela's. Cabela's has 761,000 visitors a year. Right? 1 million is not out of reach. It is absolutely appropriate for a community our size, and we believe we're being conservative with that number. We met a community when we went to the International Public Market Conference, St. John's in Canada. They're a community of 60,000 people, and they see 1.2 million visitors a year. Greenbay, as the flagship community of Northeast Wisconsin, in a region of 1.3 million people, can generate that same number of visitors. So what does our timeline look like? As you can see here, we've created a Gantt chart that shows it. Fundraising is not complete, as Ken mentioned. The whole purpose of why you go public when you've reached 50% of your fundraising goal is to build on that momentum and acknowledge that you still have more work to do. So as you can see there, we are projecting for our fundraising to continue through the end of the year, and if we get done sooner, awesome. We will take that time back and dedicate it towards other things within this project. Architecture, engineering, and design are ongoing. So Grafe, as well as our architect, RHG, who has expertise in designing facilities like this, have been hard at work. We're expected, I think, Pat, to wrap that up probably in the next 60 days or so. And of course, they'll be partners through the construction process. But this is a very complex and technical project. The engineering that's going into this is pretty remarkable. A lot of it has to do with a new foundation wall on the outside. This wall that you see right here has to be removed and will capture some space on the interior. If you can imagine the mechanicals that go into putting in hoods and electrical and plumbing for that many food-based businesses is very complex. And so we're really grateful to have their expertise on board as a team. And then of course, just the design aesthetic that RHD brings to the project. We are starting to pursue city entitlements. So when you think about pulling a planned unit development and a demolition permit, and we've got some upcoming meetings with the Department of Public Works to talk about right-of-way. As you can see in our renderings, we do want to leverage some of our public space out here for public use, for people. And we're really excited to start to work through some of those details with our city partners. Selective demolition. This is another one of the reasons that we called this press conference on the day that we did. Since Bolt has mobilized here, I believe it's about a week and a half ago now, 2 weeks ago, I've already fielded a couple of media inquiries. We said, all right, we've got to tell people what's going on. So once the fences go up and things become visual, it's hard to keep a secret. So demolition is occurring right now, as you can see. And so we're really grateful for our partners at Bolt who have been doing a good job with that. You've got fencing that is already up in the back, and so that's where some of our construction things will be mobilized. And you're going to see that coming in the front here shortly as well. One of the first things we have to do, we're going to be pulling some soil borings here, maybe even this week yet. And that's going to require a temporary sidewalk closure, but then we're going to have a more permanent closure as we start to build out the foundation wall and remove the canopy and this entire exterior wall. And of course, that'll be a prolonged closure, and we're working with our city partners to ensure that we can maintain access appropriately as needed, while still making sure that our crews can get the job done that they need done. So it's happening, right? Stuff's happening. I want to talk about the ramp design a little bit, and you can grab a look at it when you want over there. This has obviously been one of those things that we've talked about being a part, an ancillary part of this project from the very beginning. It's looking now more and more that we're going to separate these two into two separate projects. But Bolt has done some preliminary conceptual drawings on the ramp design that calls for 286 stalls on a 3-level deck. So that's 1 floor underground, 2 above, is what we're anticipating right now. Of course, that can always change. As we mentioned, Over the course of a couple of years and as the designs evolve, things change, but right now that is what our preliminary concept looks like. We've just contracted with Brave to flesh that out a little bit more from an engineering perspective to make sure that we're meeting the needs of the facility and while still making reasonable accommodations for an eventual housing development on top of that ramp. Tenant leasing is happening right now, and this is one of the big takeaways that I want to cover. When we first went public with this, there was an immense amount of public interest from businesses. We received over 70 inquiries, 70 folks that responded and said, I'm interested in space in the public market. Because, when you do a press conference, people think it's happening tomorrow. And we love that excitement, but we knew it was going to be really tough to maintain that excitement over 2 years. And so right now, though, we're happy to announce that we are actively signing leases. We have a number of them in hand already, and that we are ready to continue to do that. However, I also want to point out that from the very beginning, we've said that this project is about more art than science. We are not chasing the highest rent rate. We are not chasing any tenant that will be willing to sign a lease. This is about having the right combination. As over the last 2 years, even prior to that, when we announced 2 years ago, I think we said we had visited maybe 20 public markets around the world. We're probably in excess of 50 now. And we have really critical conversations with the folks that manage those markets. Tell us about your lease structure. Tell us what type of tenants you have. How do you choose the tenants that you do? Tell us about how you design your public spaces. We have all these conversations. And art versus science was the theme that came through in every single public market, and it's the right tenants, not anybody who's willing to pay a big check. And that is why the markets that are run and managed by nonprofits are so much more successful, because you don't have to chase the rent rates. And then lastly, it's about, tenant leasing development agreement. We've talked with Cheryl and Matt Buchanan back there and their team. Our hope is to get a term sheet from the Redevelopment Authority here, maybe in the next month. I think at their next meeting, maybe one after. I don't know, Matt's look tells me the one after. But then we'd like to get the development wrapped up. And that's important as we head into that second to last button there, which is closing the capital stack. This is complex. There's a lot of moving pieces here. We talked about everything from, grants and obviously philanthropy, to CDI grants, to tax-exempt revenue bonds, bonds from WIFA. There's so many different tools out there that we didn't even know exist. We're looking at tax incentives from the Inflation Reduction Act. There's so many things out there to contemplate when you're building a successful capital stack on a project like this, and we've had really great partners along the way to help us ensure that. We do have a consultant that has helped us with new market tax credits. To pursue those, you really do have to hire a consultant. We're working with Hush Blackwell out of Milwaukee, who's a law firm that has expertise in dealing with these structures, and so they're really helping us bring this together so that we can close our capital stack. We'll start that process probably June, July, but we want to have that closed likely in August. And then, of course, construction. So once the demolition ends, we're going to immediately head into construction as quickly as Bolts can kind of have site control. They're ready to go. But most importantly that I want to note here, as you can see, construction ending in March. And that is really in anticipation of the NFL draft. It is our goal that this space can be open and operating in time for the NFL draft. And I'll never forget that meeting when we sat with Pat and we sat with Tony and we said, we're going to have this open by the draft, and the collective look on their faces. But you know what? We pulled together a great team. I do want to call out some of our trade partners like Voss Electric and Herkman Mechanical, Tweet Garrett. So we've got some really, really great local companies that have all rallied around this and said, yes, we can make that happen. But I think one of the biggest challenges ahead of us, of course, is going to be the tenant recruitment, and so that is the piece that I really want to take away today. In closing, just a couple other things real quick. One is because I've had a few folks ask about the farmers market. As many of you know, we do have booths that are typically out here with the sidewalk closure. That is going to make that a little bit challenging, so we did have to reduce the number of booths. We're not going to be able to have booths out there, but Allie, our special events director, and her team have done an amazing job with coming up with alternative plans to really not impact the overall number of vendors at the market. It'll just be redesigned a little bit, but obviously we won't be able to have vendors out there. We are hiring staff, and so our first hire was Mary Brody, and Mary is our director of marketing. I see someone clapping. We'll give her. Yeah. We don't need to quiet clap. We're here to celebrate. So but Mary was really our first hire. She has a split role here with On Broadway. Half of her time is dedicated to brand development and marketing for the Broadway district, and the other half is she's allocated to the public market. So it's how do we develop a brand around this facility and do all of the work that comes with that. The next position that we are hiring, we are posting this week, is really our operations role. This is the person that works directly with tenants. This is the person that handles the day-to-day operations. You need someone who's going to make sure that your grease traps are emptied, your garbage is picked up on a regular basis, that when a table is dirty, this person steps in and cleans it up, right? They have to have almost ownership in the space without having ownership. And so we are posting that role this week, and we are excited to bring that on. And then, of course, you don't hire your staff the day you open, and so we're going to start posting positions. We have 6 to 8 dedicated staff for this facility. We're just kind of, I say 6 to 8 because some of those responsibilities will be shared. We've always talked about economies of scale and our ability to kind of share those positions with our regular programming in this facility. And so that's really excited that we're going to start to bring those people on. And then the last thing I just want to kind of mention is programming. This is what separates this space apart from any other type of space, and why when you look at other public markets, the ones that are most successful, it's because they program really, really well. And so we have an event space that is part of this plan. You can see it on the renderings there. That comes with a kitchen. It's not just private space rental. While that will certainly be available and an option, it's about the intentional programming that we do. And how do you ensure that there's activity coming into this space, in this facility, every single day? And so we're really excited to start that process. Our team has already put together a really phenomenal list of programming ideas. But if you could imagine trying to put together 300 plus event concepts that can be executed in this space every single year, there's going to be a lot of opportunity to take advantage of things here in our community. Everything from working with the Greenbay Public Schools and how do you teach the youth in our neighborhood here maybe to shop the farmer's market and come back here and prepare that food, to cribbage tournaments, cribbage nights, yoga classes. There's all types of activity that will cater to every type of interest here in our community. In closing, I just want to emphasize again that we are not there yet, but it's because we want to be open by the draft. There's this unorthodox approach to the way we're doing things, but we have confidence that it will work. Normally you're not building something until you've raised all your money. But because of the fact that this is a slightly different project than what you would typically see from a traditional nonprofit, there's a lot of confidence from some of our lending partners and others that we've been able to start construction before the capital campaign is complete. And Paul alluded to this before. Our biggest comparison right now is the Madison public market, which recently broke ground. There are really 2 public market. I mean, you've got Milwaukee public market. Mequon has one. La Crosse did a study on one, and of course Green Bay is working on ours right now. But Madison is the most recent example that we get to look at. And I just want to draw a comparison to this one real quick. Madison, by contrast, I believe it was a $22 million campaign for their public market. Ours is $12.5 million. 85% of their market was government funded, right? So local dollars, county dollars, state dollars. By contrast, we have already raised more money for our public market with a smaller project than Madison has. And that's not to disparage Madison. They have a wonderful product and they're doing great things. It's to demonstrate that our local philanthropic community has stepped up to the table because they want to see this project happen in our community. So we're really grateful for our donors that have come up to this, but more importantly, we see the metrics on our social media accounts. This is a project that is broadly supported by our community. The residents of our community want to see this here in Northeast Wisconsin. The philanthropy has stepped up to help support that, and now we just need to get a couple more things down the stretch here as we land this plane and really make this happen for our community. So thank you.
All right, guys, biggest takeaways today. It's happening. It's real. Stay tuned. It's going to be real fun real soon. We're talking like a year from now. That closes today's formal remarks. Thank you for coming.